Good day, good people, and welcome to Revolutionary Belovedness. I'm Robert Farrell, and whether you are here for the live session or watching a recording, thank you for being with us. If you will, let me know in the chat section that you can hear me okay. And know that the chat section remains open, and we are glad to hear from you anytime during our gathering this evening. Tonight we are going to reflect on embracing paradox and complexity, learning to hold tension without collapsing into the either-or thinking. But let's take a moment to center ourselves and to let go of the busyness of the day and the planning of the week to come. Settle into your chair or cushion beneath the body and notice the quiet weight of gravity holding each limb in place. Draw one slow breath through the nose, feeling the ribs widen like a room opening its shutters to morning light. And rest gently at the fullest point of that breath, in the small suspended moment where the in-breath and the out-breath meet. And release the breath slowly, letting the shoulders soften and the jaw loosen. And at your own pace, repeat this pattern 3 times, allowing each cycle to widen the space between thought and reaction. And arrive here fully, present to whatever this time holds, ready to meet paradox with an open and spacious heart. Now, friends, a paradox is a seeming contradiction that may nonetheless be true if seen in a different frame than the rational mind. The word comes from the Greek prefix para, meaning beyond or outside of, and the verb dokein, meaning to appear or to think. So a paradox is beyond the normal way of thinking. Now, contradictions are based on logic, a set of assumptions or expectations that we take for granted. And conversion, which is a changed mind, allows you to call those assumptions and expectations into question. If you are still overly attached to your ego, you normally can't let go of these opinions. So it takes true transformation to allow you to look at yourself from a bit of a distance with some calmness, compassion, and the humility and honesty to know that you don't know. And in truth, we are all living paradoxes. No one or no thing is totally good or totally bad. And each of us must learn to live with paradox, or we cannot live peacefully or happily even a single day of our lives. In fact, we must even learn to love paradox, or we will never be wise, will never be forgiving, or possessing the patience of good relationships. In the scriptures in the book of wisdom, it says, untarnished mirrors receive the whole picture, which always includes the darkness, the light, and subtle shadings of light that may shape, form, color, and texture beautiful. So reality is paradoxical. And if we are honest, everything is a clash of contradictions, and there's nothing on this created earth that is not a mixture at the same time of good and bad, helpful and unhelpful, endearing and maddening, living and dying. St. Augustine called this the Paschal Mystery. And friends, life continually offers two truths standing side by side, inviting room enough to breathe rather than a rush toward resolution. A single event can hold sorrow and grace together. A single relationship can carry both distance and closeness within the same season. A single chapter of history can reveal cruelty and courage rising from the same soil. A single conviction can grow stronger precisely by remaining open to question. And Richard Rohr names this capacity the contemplative mind, a way of seeing that matures beyond the reflex to choose sides and settle quickly into certainty. So, paradox understood this way becomes less a problem waiting solution and more a doorway inviting a slower walk, one that honors how much of reality actually lives in the space between opposites. So the ego understandably prefers a tidier arrangement. The ego reaches for categories that feel manageable, right and wrong, safe and dangerous, familiar and foreign. This sorting instinct serves quick decisions well, and when carried into the deeper questions of meaning, love, and belonging, it can narrow what might otherwise open wide. Richard describes an early reactive way of perceiving as the first gaze, the place where every situation gets measured immediately by its effect on the self. That first gaze asks how something threatens or benefits, how it fits an existing story, how quickly it can be resolved. A second gaze becomes available with practice, a way of perceiving that arrives undefended and present, able to hold complexity the way a wide field holds many kinds of weather at once, all of it belonging to the same sky. And that same sky stretches wide enough to hold nature's own quiet demonstrations of this generous holding, long before any doctrine tried to name it. You see, a single tree grows both toward the light and down into the dark soil at once, each direction feeding the other. A river carries both stillness and force within the same current, depending on where attention happens to rest. A season of dying leaves prepares the very ground that spring will rise from. And watching the world this closely reveals that complexity is less an obstacle to harmony and more the actual shape harmony tends to take. The eye, trained to notice only one half of any picture, will miss the fuller beauty that only appears when both halves are held together. Friends, this same pattern, so visible in root and branch, current and stillness, becomes available to the human heart through something the body already knows how to offer: breath. Breathing, as Valerie Kaur describes it within the framework of revolutionary love, creates space in a life to think and see differently, to enliven imagination, to move toward freedom. And what begins as a physical rhythm becomes, with attention, a spiritual practice capable of holding two movements as a single continuous whole. The in-breath and the out-breath appear as opposites on the surface, filling and emptying, each depending entirely on the other for its meaning. Expansion reaches its own natural limit, and emptying reaches its own natural limit as well. Wholeness arrives precisely in the exchange between them, in the willingness to let one movement complete and the other begin. And this is precisely the shape of non-dual awareness. Two realities, apparently in tension, turn out to be sustaining each other the entire time. Joy and sorrow can rise together in a single gathering, honoring both what has been lost and what continues. Conviction and humility can stand together in a single choice, holding firm to a truth while remaining teachable about how that truth gets lived. Solitude and solidarity can deepen together in a single life, the inward turn making the outward embrace even more genuine. Doubt and faith can walk the same road during a season of searching, doubt sharpening the sincerity of whatever faith eventually affirms. And naming these pairs matters less for resolving them into a single answer and more for practicing the kind of attention that lets both remain fully present, fully honored, fully alive. This fullness, once tasted inwardly, refuses to stay merely inward. Valerie names the movement directly. Breathing like this, especially for bodies the world has often denigrated, becomes a political act as much as a personal one. A person who has learned to hold grief and hope in the same chest carries that same steadiness into the rooms where communities disagree, where histories collide, and where easy answers would betray the fullness of what is actually present. Contemplation and action reveal themselves in this light as one continuous movement rather than two separate disciplines, each drawing life from the other. That same movement extends naturally into community. Valerie speaks of breathing as something done together, sustaining one another so the labor of love continues across a lifetime rather than burning through a single season. And friends, this collective dimension mirrors the paradox at the heart of our session tonight. The self matures by staying rooted in relationship precisely while complexity unfolds, present to the individual heart and the wider circle at once. A gathered community breathing together becomes living proof that many perspectives can share the same room, the same silence, and rise more whole from having done so. That same room widens further still, its walls loosening into the larger traditions that have long carried this shared wisdom into their own languages. Contemplatives across centuries and cultures have described a way of seeing that reaches beyond binary judgment, a unity glimpsed precisely at the point where opposites meet rather than where one side claims victory over the other. This shared insight offers a kind of companionship across difference. A reminder that the invitation to hold paradox belongs equally to every lineage and welcomes every sincere seeker who arrives ready to breathe. And Brother Wayne Teasdale spoke of a mystic heart running beneath the many forms religion takes. And our session this evening rests comfortably within that current, honoring the particular language of Richard Rohr and Valerie Kaur, while remaining open to every tradition that has discovered the same wide truth in its own way. So practicing this becomes an exercise in widening rather than narrowing. Each breath drawn in during this hour can serve as a small rehearsal for the larger complexities waiting beyond the room. Relationships that hold both tenderness and friction. Convictions that call for both firmness and openness. A world that asks for both grief over what harms it and wonder at what remains beautiful within it. Friends, approaching these complexities with a breathing, spacious heart allows truth to arrive in its fuller shape, layered and alive, filling far more room than the smaller shape that the anxious mind tends to prefer. So consider too how this widening changes the way disagreement gets carried. A conversation with someone holding an opposing view can become an occasion for contraction, each side gripping tighter to a single story. The same conversation, met with a breathing heart, can become an occasion for expansion, curiosity rising alongside conviction rather than replacing it. Holding both firmness and openness in the same moment, ask for practice. And every session spent breathing through smaller paradoxes builds capacity for larger ones that community and justice inevitably bring. Friends, our daily life offers countless small chances to practice this same widening long before any grand test arrives. A morning that begins with both gratitude and fatigue can be received whole rather than sorted into a single mood. A decision that carries both excitement and uncertainty can be made from a place of breath rather than forced into premature clarity. A friendship that holds both admiration and honest difference can deepen precisely because both are allowed to remain true at once. And each of these ordinary moments becomes training ground, a quiet rehearsal that prepares the heart for larger paradoxes. A life of love and justice will eventually ask it to carry. And friends, love matures through exactly this kind of expansion. A love capable of holding paradox becomes a love capable of holding people in their full complexity, opponents included, communities included, the self included. And every breath taken with this intention becomes a small act of revolutionary love, widening the space where truth, compassion, and courage can coexist. And this widening carries a gentleness that's worth naming, because holding complexity And holding it well asks for patience with the self as much as with the world, allowing understanding to arrive gradually rather than demanding it all at once. So the invitation in our session tonight is simple and spacious at once. Breathe. And let that breath teach the heart how much room actually exists for holding what once seemed possible only apart, together, whole and blessed. Thank you for receiving that reflection. Let us take time now to enter into guided inquiry. Let us offer ourselves the gift of opportunity to feel this in the body, to be present to it with our heart. Continue to breathe. Continue to be present. Feel the weight of the body settling into whatever holds it now, chair, cushion, floor. And notice where contact happens most fully. Perhaps the soles of the feet or the low curve of the back. And let that place hold a little more attention. Breath moves in without asking permission, widening the ribs on both sides at once. And breath moves out just as naturally, releasing whatever the body no longer needs to hold. Let the shoulders find where they actually rest, apart from where habit usually places them. And let the hands rest open, palms turned however feels most honest right now. Somewhere in the body right now, a small tightness may be living alongside a small ease. A small tightening alongside a small ease, both true at the same moment, both belonging. Let your jaw soften without deciding what softening should feel like. And notice the temperature of the air moving across the skin. Cooler on the way in, warmer on the way out. Two temperatures inside a single breath. Feel the pulse somewhere in the body. A rhythm of contraction and release repeating itself thousands of times a day. Each beat depending on the one before it and the one that follows. Find the place where two sensations meet inside the body. Warmth and coolness, tension and release, heaviness and tightness. And let your attention rest at that meeting point rather than choosing a side. Stay there for a moment. A memory may rise here, a moment when two feelings arrive together and ask to be believed at once. That memory of a goodbye that carried relief and grief in the same breath. A memory of a homecoming that carried joy and unfamiliarity in the same doorway. A memory of a choice that felt certain and trembling as it was made. Let that memory arrive without needing to be explained. What did your body do in that moment, holding both things at once? Where did it tighten and where did it stay open? And notice whether the memory still lives somewhere in the chest, in the throat, in the belly. And just let it rest there without being smoothed over. Follow the sensation back into the present. A question can rise quietly here, needing no answer. What is being held together inside the body in this very moment? What is being held together inside the body this very moment? Where does the holding feel like weight? And where does it feel like room? Notice if there's a place in the body that wants to relax its grip, even slightly, even for a single breath. Notice if there's a place that wants to stay firm, holding its ground with quiet dignity. Both places can belong to the same body in the same moment without needing to agree. And allow your breath to widen around whatever surface is, neither pushing it away nor pulling it closer. Your body already knows how to hold two things without collapsing either one. This has been happening in every breath since the first one was drawn. And let your awareness settle into that knowing, the way a hand settles onto a warm stone. As we enter into the silence, spaciousness can come open now, wide enough to hold whatever wants to remain unnamed. Breathing in, I hold what is true. Breathing out, I let it stay whole. Breathing in, I hold what is true. Breathing out, I let it stay whole. Let your breath begin to widen on its own now, no longer needing guidance. Let the sounds in the room around you return to your awareness. Let the weight of your body register again, grounded, familiar, unchanged and somehow different at the same time. Open your eyes when they're ready, slowly, allowing the light to arrive gently. And notice whatever is still being held and let it travel with you rather than needing to be set down. Carry this holding gently into whatever the evening asks next. And may your heart find room enough for everything it carries today and every day. Thank you for joining in that practice with me. I'll offer 4 dialogue questions. Feel free, as always, to answer one or more of those now. Know that they'll be provided in the Mighty Network recording section so that you can dive into them a little deeper if you'd like. We'll start with, where in your life right now are you holding two truths that both feel real, even though they seem to be pulling in different directions? Next, what has slowing down to breathe changed, or when has slowing down to breathe changed the way you saw a difficult situation or relationship? Next, what might shift if you approached a current disagreement with curiosity for what the other side holds true rather than the urgency to be right? And next, what does your body let you know when you, or how does your body let you know when you are gripping toward one side of a paradox instead of resting in the whole of it? So we'll let those questions sit for just a minute. I will remind you that all of our sessions are recorded. They'll be available on the Mighty Network. They'll be available on YouTube. Also let you know that we are still making our transition this month from Mighty Network into Crowdcast, into Substack, into the Contemplative Inner Being website. You should have received a post on Mighty Network, email in Substack about that, and you will see probably 3 more between now and the end of the month, just to kind of guide you along the way in the transition there. And sometime in the next 10 days or so, we are going to have a session on Crowdcast, kind of a orientation. It's just going to let you pop into the Crowdcast and kind of show you around how Crowdcast works. Let us meet and chat together and ask questions. Make sure everybody can sign in and not have any problems. There's also a way to be seen and heard in Crowdcast. So if anybody wants to come up on stage, as they call it, you can do that as well. All right, friends, that is it for us this evening. Thank you for being here. And I hope to see you again soon. Good night for now. Blessings to all.